On today's episode, Sons of Liberty, Uprising. Before we begin, please remember to like and subscribe. I've noticed I do a hands thing. Welcome to KIllco Whiskey Musings. My name is Brian, and this is a locally distilled single malt here in Rhode Island. If you are a long-time Whiskey Vault watcher like I am, you will have seen this past Monday that they did a review of a Sons of Liberty product. I will link it up there. That was their battle cry. This is Uprising, a different one, but I figure until I can find the other one, I'm going to have to deal with this. This bottle has been sitting on my shelf for 2 years, so I guess I have an excuse now. As mentioned on their show, there is wax on the top and no real way to get it off there, so no. Nice. It's like all rubber, or whatever this is. That's neat. I haven't been to this distillery in quite a while due to, last year, but I'm hoping to go back there again at some point and try some of their stuff. I had a peated version they did at one point that was glorious. Trying to get all the info here. Distilled from a stout mash. That's what makes this a little different. It's also a New England single malt, which I hope becomes a thing in the future. Batch 18, and this is 40% alcohol. I know, you want me to get the whiskey. I promise I will. There is a lot of information on the back, and I think it's important to read that because they give you the information. Mash bill, traditional stout mash with dehusked chocolate malt, roasted barley, crystal 45, biscuit malt, and pale malt. That's a lot of malt. Fermentation, 14 days with classic American ale yeast. Distillation, double distilled to an average of 124 proof. Barrels, minimum of 12 months in newly charred American oak. Finishing, non-chill filtered, no flavorings or colorings added. Isn't that nice? All that info right on the back. It's beautiful. And we begin with the color. This is certainly right around here. Burnt umber area. Begin nosing technique. Oh, hi. Whoa. So as I expected, this made me think of a scotch because it is a single malt. There's like a weird dark chocolate thing going on here. I did accidentally read something earlier that stuck, and I didn't mean for it to, but mocha, that was also in there, and I would agree. There is a mocha thing in here. Or cocoa, even. There's a little bit of sweetness, but honestly not a lot. I could say there's a bit of nuttiness. I haven't really said that very often. I've said in most of my videos that it's hard for me to pick that up, but I want to say almonds. Possibly chocolate-covered almonds. I'm trying to place the sweetness, and I'm having issues. Probably a bit of caramel, but very light. Again, it's kind of overpowered by this cocoa chocolate thing. I always wonder what a strict bourbon drinker would think about pouring something like this in their glass and saying it's an American single malt. And there's a fruit note. I want to say apple. What kind of apple? Red? There's a bit of cinnamon in here as well. Alright, enough of that. On to the tasting. Whoa. I'm trying not to analyze the first sip, but it's hard. I'm trying to process everything. That was an interesting experience. I will try that again, please. Ooh, spicy. Ooh, dry all of a sudden. Wow. A little bit of cinnamon. Ooh, very dry. Holy shit. More dark chocolate. The spice lingers a bit, but it's not aggressive. Just kind of stays there. Peppery. It seems a bit oily, too. Go back to the nose briefly. There seems to be a distinct grain-like smell that I would get off. Like a multi-grain bread with all the bits in it. Extremely long finish, too. On to phase 2 for the appearance. Color will say deep copper. Clarity, well, clear. I do not see any sediments in this. And viscosity, I have to say light. I know it's 40%. Keep in mind you wouldn't know that from drinking it because it does stick. For the nose, I will give it a 2. I'm tempted to give it a 3, but it's not overpowering. It is kind of light. But as you saw, there was a initial, whoa, kind of impression when I first smelled it. Age, I will say moderate, because this is a fairly good color, and we are talking about it being made in the New England area. Grain, this is where we start to feel like this is supposed to be used for blinds, but I know it's malt, lots of malt. Smoke, none. Spice, I had a little bit of cinnamon, and leather's actually sounding pretty good as well, because of this weird malty thing going on. Sweet, I was having trouble with sweet. Yeah, There's a hint of caramel and that dark chocolate. Ooh. And you know what? There is something else. This is a strange memory. But there was a certain type of chocolate frosting that I remember as a kid that I didn't really like. It tasted kind of weird to me. It's making me think of the smell of that. I just did something fun to myself. I looked at floral, looked at rose, and suddenly there it was. Maybe rose water even? Oh, we're so fancy. It's so bizarre. I didn't notice that before until I read it. I love when that happens. Wine, I feel like you should just skip unless I know it's finished. Fruit, I said apple, and maybe a bit of a berry note. I started thinking about blueberries. Going into the sulfur. There's another moment where looking at the words helps. Rubber, a bit of a rubber note. A racer rubbery note. It's funny, as it asked me about smoke earlier and I didn't get anything, but suddenly another weird place for my brain to water to. I am thinking of when you've been near a fire, like at a campfire, and it's kind of the way your clothes smell the next day. You've been too close to the smoke. Only a hint of that, though. It's kind of a weird little memory. Into the earth we go. I did say nutty. I believe it was almond or chocolate-covered almonds. The more I do this, there is a slight grass note as well. Yeah, like a grass and dirt note. Onto the palate. Flavor, I have to go with bitter. Proof, I know it's low. Body and texture. Body feels like a 3. And the texture is actually a little bit creamy. I thought it was going to be light because it's 40%. But the way it coats your mouth and your tongue, no, I have to give it a creamy feeling. Balance, does any element dominate? I would certainly say the dark chocolate and the dry note. Like my whole tongue goes dry after I have a sip of this stuff. And the finish is at least a 4. I almost want to say long. The complexity, I feel, is between 2 and 3. This is a malted beverage, which I'm not exactly used to, unless I'm drinking scotch. And I hope to share this with other people who are curious about New England single malts. And at the end, we usually look at the website for the brand and see what they have to say about it. Uprising American Single Malt Whiskey. At the Sons of Liberty, we are making American single malt whiskeys that are leading the craft revolution. We are thrilled to start the revolution with Uprising. Using 100% malted barley, featuring the darker malts traditionally used in stout beers, which I think is just cool, we double distilled to create a clean and complex whiskey. They want it to be complex. Aged in newly charred American oak barrels and complemented with toasted French oak, aha! Uprising single malt offers an extremely smooth experience with vanilla and caramel flavors from the barrels and distinct mocha and coffee flavors from the mash bill. That was what I read earlier by accident when it said mocha. Coffee's a good one too. I should have said that. I think I had that thought briefly and then I got distracted, as I am wont to do. It's like the bitterness of it reminds me a bit of coffee. But in general, the bitterness, coffee, makes sense. There you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed the video. I look forward to doing more New England distillers in the days to come. As always, live long and prosper. Don't forget to be awesome. And I will see you out there. Thank you for joining me on KIllco Whiskey Musings. You can find my social media and Patreon in the links below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.